May 22nd during a traffic stop on I-75. After the funeral at Scott County High School, Deputy Conley will be laid to rest in his hometown of Cynthiana. I've ordered flags to be lowered at state office buildings tomorrow in his honor, and I ask businesses and organizations all across Kentucky to join us in flying their flags again at that lowered status. Deputy Conley is the first Kentucky peace officer killed this year in the line of duty, and we pray that he is the last. We will add his name to the Law Enforcement Memorial in Richmond this time next year, as we just added 7 names of law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty last year, as well as 2 historical names last week. We are grateful to Deputy Conley for his service and his sacrifice to the Commonwealth. And we continue to pray for his wife, his children, everybody he worked with, his whole extended family, his friends, his community. He is a child of God, irreplaceable to those that love him. And we will be there for his family to carry their grief as long as they will let us. But it's our job as Kentuckians to be there for them, not just today and tomorrow, but in the weeks and the decades to come. Now today, though, we do have some really good news as well. We have 2 big headlines that continue our great news for Kentucky's red-hot economy. And then we have some new jobs announcements from just today. First, on May 19th, we announced that Kentucky had reached a new historic low unemployment rate of 3.7%. That's when we announced that last year was the lowest monthly unemployment rate in our history. What we didn't announce was that last week's unemployment rate extends Kentucky's streak for the lowest unemployment rates for the longest period of time in our state's history. We haven't just had the lowest month and the lowest year last year. We've had the longest period of consecutive months with the lowest unemployment in our history. It continues to be good news for Kentucky. It's not bouncing up and down. It means we're creating significant numbers of jobs and people are filling them. But what that report from last month also showed was that Kentucky's non-farm employment has increased by nearly 54,000 jobs today than before the pandemic. In other words, we can announce today that Kentucky's economy has 54,000 more jobs than before COVID. What that means is we haven't just gotten back on our feet and rebuilt. We are surging forward. That we didn't even let a 1-in-100-year pandemic push back our job growth. In fact, we are seeing records despite everything that we have gone through. Kentucky's economy continues to set records, whether that's the most jobs ever created in 2021, the most private sector investment ever in 2021, lowest unemployment rate in 2022. Now, we continue to show the country that we are an economic powerhouse. Thanks to our record low unemployment rates and historic job growth, Kentuckians across the Commonwealth now have more opportunities available for quality, good paying jobs. And if that wasn't exciting enough as the trends, the specifics of what we got to announce today and in the last couple days are really exciting. To kick off this week's economic development news, I want to highlight a significant project announced just this morning that further solidifies Kentucky as the EV capital of the United States of America. Toyota's largest manufacturing plant in the United States is officially going electric. Today, Toyota leaders announced an investment of up to $591 million in its Georgetown plant to produce battery electric vehicles at the Toyota Motor Manufacturing Kentucky plant in Georgetown. As a part of this, Toyota is committed to retaining an additional 700 full-time Kentucky jobs at that Scott County facility that currently employs, get this, 9,300 Kentuckians. Those are 9,300 families that now have the security that there is going to be a new vehicle, that those jobs are going to exist into the future. And by making this step, we know that that plant will be part of our automotive landscape here in Kentucky, in the United States, in the world for decades to come. Toyota's leadership has unveiled plans to assemble an all-new three-row SUV battery electric vehicle at the plant. The project follows an October 2021 announcement of $461 million in investments to upgrade the facility and to prepare for future electrification. What this means is just since October 21, we've announced over $1 billion of investment and planned investment in this one plant alone. Through its ongoing incentive agreement with the state, the company is now committed to retention of nearly 9,000 employees of the Scott County facility. So all those families can be secure and know that they're going to have the security of those continuing jobs for the years and decades to come. Today's announcement is just the latest addition to the Georgetown site's history of groundbreaking technology and production. In 2006, the operation was Toyota's first plant in the United States to manufacture hybrid electric vehicles and was later selected to assemble fuel cell modules for use in hydrogen-powered heavy-duty commercial trucks. The plant also plays a critical role in Toyota's global electrification strategy with an aggressive goal to offer electric or hybrid versions of every vehicle model the company makes by 2025. With a total of approximately $8.5 billion invested, Toyota Motor Manufacturing, Kentucky is the company's largest production facility globally and currently employs approximately 9,300 team members. Think about that. This opened in 1988. It was the first Toyota facility in the United States. It's still their largest plant globally. And we now have investments over the past year and a half of $1 billion to turn it electric and to preserve those 9,000 plus jobs. This is enormous for all of Kentucky, for the Georgetown community. What we know is all those suppliers that bring tens of thousands of other jobs are still going to be in Kentucky, knowing that this new vehicle is going to continue to be produced. Listen, we love every jobs announcement, but one that we know secures a plant this size for the decades to come is a truly exciting one. Opened in 1988, more than 12 million vehicles have rolled out of that facility, including America's best-selling sedan, which is the Camry, and the best-selling SUV, which is the RAV4. Current production capacity is approximately 550,000 vehicles and 600,000 engines annually, with a supplier base of more than 350 suppliers nationwide, including over 100 in Kentucky. Including today's announcement, automotive-related companies have invested $13 billion in new investments since I became governor and created approximately 15,000 new Kentucky full-time jobs. I want to thank company leaders for their continued investment in the Commonwealth. This is an enormous announcement that ensures that we are going to be making Toyota vehicles at their very first U.S. plant, their largest plant globally, for years to come. Thank you to Toyota. They believed in us first before any other state in the United States, and they continue to invest in us. Our state also saw new growth in its distribution and logistics sector, which includes about 600 facilities and employs about 91,000 people statewide. During my administration, more than 120 new location and expansion projects have been announced in this industry alone, with 8,000 new full-time jobs and over $2.2 billion in new investment. Yesterday, Kroger Fulfillment Network announced plans to locate a new distribution facility in Boone County. It's an additional $550,000 investment. It's going to create 98 new full-time Kentucky jobs. The new facility will help expand Kroger's e-commerce reach in the Commonwealth. The project will support the customer fulfillment center currently operating in Monroe, Ohio, by extending customers access to affordable, healthy, and fresh food. To support the operation, the company will locate the facility in a 2,000 square foot portion of an existing building in Boone County. Kroger maintains 112 stores in the Commonwealth, employs more than 19,000 Kentuckians. The Commonwealth is also home to 4 manufacturing and distribution centers that serve the company, as well as a regional headquarters in Louisville. Quality, nationally recognized companies like Kroger, which have a long history of investment and support here, continue to bring incredible opportunities to our people, and we are grateful for them. As you know, Kroger was also an incredible partner during the pandemic. Together, the Commonwealth and Kroger set up what became the national model for drive-through testing when we didn't have those capacities before. They also help us with things like Shop and Share, which is a day each year that people can donate items to our to domestic violence shelters to ensure those that have to leave at a moment's notice for their own safety don't lack for those most important things when they show up to those shelters. So thank you to Kroger for being a good Kentucky citizen and working with us. And thank you as well for all the new jobs. Feel free to continue to expand. Along with these great announcements, yesterday I got to celebrate a groundbreaking with a amazing Kentucky-based woman-owned business that is growing faster than just about anyone could imagine. Bluegrass Bottling broke ground on the company's new Lancaster bottling facility, a $6.25 million investment. It's creating 27 new full-time positions in Garrett County. In August 2022, Bluegrass Bottling announced a 50,000 square foot bottling facility on a 98-acre site in Lancaster, where the company will operate under the name Poor Ridge Distillery. The project will also more than double the company's storage space to a total of 49,000 square feet. This company operates in both Garrett and Lincoln counties, currently employing about 20 people in the Commonwealth that I got to meet yesterday. Leaders said they will retain the employment base from the current bottling facility in Lincoln County, where the company will maintain a distribution presence. Bluegrass Bottling, this was amazing to hear this story, was established in 2020. They started less than a month before the pandemic hit. They immediately switched to making hand sanitizer, which actually helped them launch, didn't hurt their launch. And since just 2020, they have more than tripled in size. Incredible growth, where they've now outgrown 2 separate buildings and continue to expand. Lisa, who is in the middle, the company owner, really tells an amazing story about how she wanted to bring these jobs to her home, which is where this land is, right next to where she grew up. And it's a reminder about how our small and growing businesses are the first ones to hire in places that they love, and the last ones to lay people off, because these are people that they know. And that every day, while we celebrate the big new jobs that come in, we know our small businesses hire more people each and every day than even those large announcements. This project just builds on the record momentum with the bourbon industry. Last year, $2.1 billion in new investments, $500 million more than the next best year. We continue to see businesses like this thrive. This is a truly fantastic project for Garrett County. Also proof that we're bringing jobs everywhere to each and every county. It's why we were ranked number 3 in micropolitan economic development last year, which just means we're number 3 in the country at creating good rural jobs. So thank you to this great company. They're a great family. And all our grandkids play travel baseball like Will does. So I know we will see them regularly on the weekends. So today, some really exciting news about how we're improving public safety by ensuring that people don't reoffend. So my goal as governor and as a dad whose family calls this great state home is to build a better Kentucky for every single family. That means 1, creating more opportunity, 2, prioritizing public safety, and 3, making sure we treat our neighbors as ourselves and we give those type of second chances that the Bible teaches us to give. Part of that is making sure that individuals leaving state custody who have paid their debt to society have the tools they need to succeed when they return to their communities. Remember, when we get somebody who is leaving prison in a stable position, in a good job with the services they need, maybe in treatment if they need it, they are less likely to reoffend, which makes our community safer. It means fewer crimes are happening than would otherwise be happening. So today, I'm proud to report that we are making major progress to achieve this goal. I'm proud to announce that the state has now reached the lowest recidivism rate ever recorded in the Commonwealth at 27.15%. That is down from the highest recidivism rate of nearly 44.56% under my predecessor in 2017. That means that Kentuckians who have paid their debts to society are less likely to reoffend than ever before. That means there are fewer crimes than would have happened based on those old rates. My administration has done a number of things to try to get there. One of the most exciting is we've increased the employment rate for those released from state incarceration to 57%. That means 57% of people leaving incarceration right now are finding jobs. And that's compared with about 49% in 2019. That's up 8 points, but those are people. They're getting in secure jobs, hopefully getting back with their families. They are not reoffending, and they are contributing to society. I want to thank the Department of Corrections and others for a number of programs that we think all contribute to this. So the Department of Corrections Addiction Treatment Program has approximately 6,300 treatment beds available, which is the largest number of beds in the history of the department. Remember, we talked about private and nonprofit treatment beds increasing 50% since I became governor. We also have the largest number of treatment beds inside our Department of Corrections in our history. Of those inmates who completed the program, and not everybody completes the program, but those who do, a recent departmental study showed that 75% were still employed 12 months after release. This is treating the cause. Now, so many of these crimes probably began with an addiction that led to the crimes. Treating the addiction helps us prevent the type of recidivism that we have seen in the past. This success is because we've been able to invest and expand in the Department of Corrections Division of Reentry Services. These are people that help our inmates or former inmates as they transition from prison back into society. The better we can do that transition, the less likely somebody's going to reoffend, which means the fewer crimes are happening from those individuals. So today we have more than 80 staff providing those services. That's up from 12 staff members in 2018. The team has worked closely with my administration to pave the way for a smooth transition, and today's announcement is because of many of those programs launched in the last several years and the great people who work in them. You can launch the best program, you can have the best of intentions, but you got to have these wonderful state employees who believe in what they're doing and who go out there to get the job done. That's fighting for inches that become the feet, that become the yards, that become the miles of progress. And our DOC state employees deserve a lot of kudos for this trend that we're seeing. In partnership with our friends at Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, we're also offering a statewide project that provides transportation at no cost to former inmates so that they can get to addiction treatment, job interviews, education, and employment. So far, we provided vouchers to 20,000 Kentuckians. In November, we also announced a new Prison to Work pipeline, a partnership with the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to the Kentucky Chamber for that partnership. The program has already helped 820 individuals to be referred to an employment specialist in their community. Based on these efforts today, about 72% of released inmates do not return to prison. That is a Kentucky record. We'd like to see those numbers improve further, but these trends that we are seeing, positive news, which we all like to see, show that the efforts of so many coming together can move us ahead and we can battle some of the most difficult challenges. Think about it. The lowest recidivism rate in our state history. We announced that last year we had the first decline in overdose deaths since, I believe, 2018. And we have the fewest number of kids in foster care in the last 3 to 4 years. Those are all really good trends that are good for our people and are good for their families. So I still believe and continue to believe that good people in the nonprofit sector and the private sector and in government working together can make a difference in our society, especially serving those that with that extra help or maybe that extra work, we can get on a better track. And when we do, right, we make strides against this drug epidemic. We decrease recidivism, which makes us safer in our communities. When we do good things for other people, oftentimes it does good things for our entire community. So to the Department of Corrections, to everyone in public safety, great job on achieving this new milestone. All right, next we have a quick update on sports betting. In March, we announced that the legislation had passed to finally legalize sports betting in the Commonwealth. Kentuckians will soon be able to place their bets here in Kentucky so that those dollars don't pave other states' roads, contribute to other states' economies. They stay right here in Kentucky. I said when I signed the sports betting bill into law that this new industry would bring jobs and tourism and growth to Kentucky. Today, we have our first good announcement of many that's following through on that promise. The Kentucky Horse Racing Commission is now actively hiring employees in wagering compliance to gear up for the launch of sports wagering in the Commonwealth. This is an exciting milestone. With the additional licensing and enforcement responsibilities, we have to add these jobs. That's the first step towards the implementation of this program. And folks, we are making sure it is done right. Right now, the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission, working with my office and others, is actively engaged with officials from other states, with likely participants inside the states on developing what will be the initial emergency regulations that get the program up and going. They're looking at best practices. These meetings and conversations are occurring right now with an ambitious goal of getting this launched by the NFL season. In the initial round of hiring, the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission will be hiring dedicated professionals to support wagering compliance efforts, including advisors, analysts, auditors, and other crucial roles in regulating the sports wagering industry. Interested candidates who want to help us launch sports betting here in the Commonwealth, to be the pioneers who help us get this done, can find detailed information on these positions and see the application process on Kentucky's personnel website or at khrc.ky.gov. We'll have more news as we go. I know a lot of people, me included, are really excited about the launch of this program, and we want to try to give you updated information as we move closer and closer and closer to it. And I will tell you, this is a very ambitious goal to get this launched by the NFL season, but every single one of our cabinets and the Horse Racing Commission have all committed to making it happen. We'll give you updates to make sure that we are still on track as we move towards that. All right. On May 14th, Kentucky lost a great leader and a friend of mine with the passing of Representative Lamine Swan. Lamine was always smiling, leading with kindness, and working to build a better and a more inclusive Kentucky for all of our families. We miss him, and we continue to hold his family in prayer. Lamine held the 93rd district seat in the House of Representatives, a seat that must be filled in order to continue Lamine's legacy. Kentucky law requires the governor to issue a writ of election to fill a vacancy in the House of Representatives when the General Assembly is not in session. So today I signed an executive order calling for the election to fill the 93rd district seat to be held on Tuesday, November 7th, 2023. On this date, Kentuckians can honor Lamine by getting out to vote for someone they believe in to carry on this important work. That is also the date of the regular general election, which should help election officials in that district not to duplicate their efforts. I know that's something that Lamine would have liked. I really enjoyed our friendship, getting to know him. He was always trying to do what he thought was right, and we will miss him. We got a special video for you today. As we are rebuilding houses in Eastern Kentucky, we know they're coming one by one. And it's sometimes hard to grasp what this can mean and how it can feel. What watching each of these families is like when they enter into their new home. But really, they watch the whole construction from beginning to end. They participate in it. So right about now today in Knott County, William and Cheyenne White and their little boy Caleb are moving into a new home, all thanks to the hard work and a little help from the Housing Development Alliance and the Team Eastern Kentucky Flood Relief Fund. The Team Eastern Kentucky Relief Fund has raised more than $13.2 million thus far from 41,500 donors. Listen, the rebuilding effort is massive. We do need more donors. You can donate at teamEKYFloodReliefFund.ky.gov. I want to thank every single donor, but to those that are thinking about doing more, about what it means to help fund one of these homes, I want you to hear from both the folks moving in and the folks who are building them.
That night, We watched our house pick up and float away. A whole lot of what are we going to do? What's our next step? We couldn't complain because we all still had each other. Everybody was safe. There's a lot of people that didn't have that privilege that we did.
The Whites lived on Troublesome Creek, which is one of the hardest hit areas. Their house was completely destroyed, and we're in the process of building them this new home on a new lot. We're well above the river. This property will not flood.
It feels like we can actually start our lives again. Caleb's excited. His room in this house is actually going to be bigger than his old one. He's been just as much a part of this as we have. He would save money. If anyone would give him money or if he found loose change, he would put it in his piggy bank, and what he would say is that he could help buy his new house. And so he's saving it all up now. That's what he says he wants to do with it, is to buy decorations for his room.
One of the things the governor has talked about is getting it right, to actually build back better than we were before. We're using the Team Eastern Kentucky Flood Relief funding, and that's going directly to the family. That's money off the cost of the house that they never have to pay back. That's a tremendous gift that the donors have given to flood survivors.
Governor Beshear, he came and surveyed the area. It shows that he cares about this little part in Eastern Kentucky, that we were able to get the help that we were. It goes back to showing that people in Kentucky are willing to do whatever it takes to help. To anyone that donated to the Eastern Kentucky Fund in order to help us get a new house, not just us, everyone that lost their homes, it's awesome. I just can't thank them enough.
They'll be big enough for Maggie when she grows up.
And I should have added their daughter Maggie as well. So to everybody out there, this is what we're doing, and this is why we're doing it. It's families like this who deserve to have that fresh start, who shouldn't be clawing back for a decade based on a natural disaster. These are great people that have, I think, so many good things ahead of them, and getting back into a new safe home outside the floodplain is a really big step for them individually, and to ensure we don't go through something like this again. So we also have a reminder about our disaster recovery program. Last month, we announced for Western Kentucky and for Breathitt County, because we had floods a year before, that $123 million would be available to communities impacted by the 2021 tornadoes in the West and the flooding in 2021 in the East. Applications opened on May 1st to help build homes, rental properties, and multifamily properties in these areas. As I mentioned, the day we announced the funding, June 1st, is the day we start taking applications from cities, counties, nonprofits, for-profits, and other governmental entities for infrastructure projects. This includes projects addressing water, wastewater, stormwater, and other infrastructure needs. So tomorrow, right? June 1st is tomorrow. The applications open. And I want to say again, for cities, counties, nonprofits, for-profits, and other governmental entities for infrastructure projects for that $123 million. If you remember, 80% goes to 5 counties. So really big for the counties that got hit the hardest by the tornadoes, as well as Breathitt County and the flooding. The other 20% available to a larger group of counties. The applications will be available on DLG's website starting tomorrow. You can also contact the Department of Local Government directly at dlg.dr@ky.gov. And finally, our Team Kentucky All-Star, somebody I've gotten to know decently well and am pretty proud of. One of the Commonwealth's very own, DeCorey Johnson from Louisville, showed the world his amazing voice last night at the season 18 premiere of America's Got Talent. At just 11 years old, DeCorey stunned the audience and the judges with his voice that we have heard here in Kentucky, including in our rotunda. But he even received a standing ovation from the crowd. Be sure to watch his performance if you haven't already. All those watches will help DeCorey with his career and just introduce more people to how much talent we have right here in Kentucky. I had the pleasure of hearing DeCorey sing live at the Capitol at the 2022 Black History Month celebration as well as at a couple of events that I've attended in Louisville over the years. He hopes one day to perform on Broadway and in movies, and I have no doubt that this talented young man will absolutely make that happen. This is why I'm so happy to name my friend DeCorey as this week's Team Kentucky All-Star. DeCorey, we are proud of you, and we are rooting you on. We know that you'll go far in this competition, but no matter how far the judges say yes or say no, you are a Team Kentucky All-Star, and we back you all the way. With that, we'll open it up to questions. We have 2 journalists in here and 1 on the line, so a shorter day. Tom Latek.
Thanks, Governor. Good afternoon to you. Talk about the recidivism rate going down. That should translate to fewer inmates. And I know historically Kentucky's had either been first or second in the number of women inmates. Are we seeing a reduction in our prison population, and will we not have to use private prisons?
So it's a good question about whether or not it will impact the overall incarceration rate, because it's only one part of the incarceration rate, right? The incarceration rate is both people that are being convicted and sentenced for the first time, as well as those that reoffend. So for the incarceration rate to go down, our recidivism rate has to go down, and the number of first-time offenders being incarcerated can't go up, if that makes sense. So we'd have to look at the overall rate. I will say the Department of Corrections is one of the few entities in the world that can't control their intake, right? That happens through judges providing those sentences, but ultimately has to house either in our jails and prisons and or in jails or prisons, everyone that's sentenced to it. As governor, I will tell you, I do not believe in private prisons. We have a privately owned prison that we lease right now, and certainly believe that these are institutions that need to be state-run. I think we see better public safety out of them, and this is our obligation. We are making active efforts to certainly shift some of our prison population right now. The Kentucky State Reformatory in Oldham County is crumbling. We already can't use the majority of that prison. And listen, it's going to have to close. And it's going to have to close sometime in the near future. To everyone working there, we have plenty of open spots, even in the surrounding facilities in Oldham County. Absolutely no one would lose their job. What we put in the budget was extra construction at Little Sandy, that right now we do need that number, if not more, of beds. And we are working to move the population that would be served at the reformatory into Little Sandy. Now, there's some other ancillary pieces that we have to work on that are located at the reformatory or around that we're going to have to move, but these are steps that have to be taken. And I'll get those that say, well, we shouldn't be building any new facilities. Listen, we don't get to choose, right? In corrections, how many or how much? We have an absolute legal obligation to serve everyone the court system sends to us. Melissa Patrick.
Hi, Governor. So I just attended Attorney General Cameron's announcement along with his opioid settlement commission to do some to commit $42 million to a project that hopefully will take a drug called Ibogaine, which stops withdrawal for opioids, take it all the way from clinical trials to FDA approval in 6 years, like a huge effort to do this. And I'm just seeking comment from you if you're aware of this effort, and just seeking comment, please.
So I today heard for the first time that the Attorney General announced that he's taken $42 million from opioid settlements and putting it into psychedelic research. I immediately called the members that are from my administration on the Opioid Advisory Commission under the law. They're supposed to be the ones that decide what projects to fund. And neither Van Ingram nor Secretary Friedlander had ever heard of this project. They said it wasn't raised in any meeting that they were at and that they didn't vote on it. And so I have at least some questions about how that procedure went or did not go. Now, the other thing I'd mention is this is a huge amount of money. You know, thus far, they've only put out $18.5 million, and that's for law enforcement, treatment, recovery, altogether. And so I think the Attorney General's going to have to explain to every treatment center why they've received about $10 million total for every single one of them around the state, and what they're doing, to every recovery operation and what they're doing. And 4 times as much went into this, I guess, effort, hope of something that could happen. But here's the other thing. Thus far, the Attorney General's only provided $1 million to law enforcement. And what I've seen on their website when they talk about the 18 million, 1 million to law enforcement for everything they're trying to do to stop fentanyl. Well, if you only provide $1 million to law enforcement and 42 to pharma, it doesn't seem like you're back in the blue. It seems like you're back in big pharma. So a lot of questions there for the Attorney General to answer, including how he can make an announcement of how the funds are used when 2 members of the commission have never heard of it. All right, on the line, we've got Josh James.
Hi, Governor. I know it's not something that's easy to predict, but should the U.S. Pass any kind of defaults deadline, do we know who might be affected first and most in Kentucky should things go sideways in Washington? And has that situation triggered any kind of safeguards or preparations in Kentucky?
We certainly expect the agreement to pass. If we reach a point where leadership of both chambers of Congress and the president, if we've reached the point where they come to an agreement but don't have the votes, it's very concerning about governance moving forward in general. Certainly, we have a lot of federal employees in Kentucky. They're the ones that will feel it the most, the hardest, and the quickest. But what this will do to the markets is, it has to be avoided. What we're talking about here isn't whether the United States will pay the debts now or spending that will occur in a month. These are all things that we already committed to, right? That we already received, that we have to now pay for in the past. And I believe that we are people of our word and of our bond. And while we can negotiate about things moving forward, I don't think we can accept services and goods from people and then say, I don't think we're going to pay for them now a year or a year and a half or 2 years later. That's just not who we are. It's really important that they reach this deal. And from what I've seen, it's one that probably no one's fully happy with, which means it's an actual deal of give and take. And we're actually looking at it. We want to make sure that we don't lose certain dollars in highways and in other infrastructure spending that can really help us. But what's most important is that the deal gets done and gets passed. And that's even with challenges in it, what we hope to see. All right. Less than an hour today. We will try to keep that going as well. Thank you all very much.